In 2010, a disturbing video surfaced on the internet, one that would shock and horrify viewers all around the world. The footage showed a man suffocating 2 kittens inside a vacuum-sealed plastic bag. The video was titled, "One Boy, 2 Kittens," and was posted anonymously to a gore website known as Best Gore. Most people who stumbled across the clip quickly looked away, but on the darker corners of the web, on sites like 4chan and Best Gore's forums, a small community of users did not. They became obsessed. They watched the video repeatedly, pausing frame by frame, searching for any clue that could identify the man behind the camera. One user noticed a vacuum cleaner, a rare model, only sold in certain parts of Canada. Another spotted a pack of cigarettes resting on a table, a brand predominantly sold in Quebec. A third focused on the distinct pattern of the bed sheets, while others examined the door handles and electrical outlets visible in the background. Over weeks, these strangers began to piece together a picture. They created threads titled "Find the Kitten Vacuumer," sharing theories, comparing screenshots, and compiling lists of possible suspects. At one point, a user posted about a missing person report in Montreal, suggesting a possible connection. Yet, despite these early warnings and detailed investigations by the public, local police paid little attention. Fast forward to May 2012. A chilling new video appeared on YouTube titled, "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick." This was no animal abuse footage, this was a murder. The video showed Luka stabbing a man, Junlin, with an ice pick. He then dismembered the body. Parts of the victim's remains were mailed to political offices and schools across Canada. Meanwhile, the online sleuths who had tracked the kitten vacuumer suddenly realized they had been following the same man all along. They scrambled to alert authorities, posting their compiled evidence and theories. But by this time, Luka had fled. He escaped to Europe, traveling through Germany and France before being captured in Berlin. He was arrested in a cafe, ironically, while looking for news about himself. This arrest brought a shocking truth into focus. The internet had known Luka's identity for years. The fragmented clues uncovered by strangers online had outpaced the police investigation. Magnotta's case was one of the first in modern history where internet users tracked, profiled, and helped identify a serial offender before law enforcement had pieced it together. But it also exposed the blind spots in traditional policing. How had officers ignored these clues? Why had early warnings been dismissed? Experts would later point out that Luka was a disturbed man who craved attention. He deliberately uploaded his disturbing content online seeking notoriety. Luka's story is a chilling reminder monsters can hide in plain sight, but with enough eyes watching, even the darkest secrets can surface. On the edge of New York's Long Island sits a narrow barrier island, lined with dunes, vacation homes, and miles of secluded coastline. It's peaceful, quiet, deceptively so, but in December of 2010, that illusion shattered. While searching for a missing woman, Shannon Gilbert, investigators stumbled upon something unexpected. A woman's skeleton, wrapped in burlap, partially buried in the brush along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach. Then, just days later, they found another, and another, and another. Within months, 4 women had been discovered, all sex workers who had advertised their services on Craigslist, all found less than a quarter-mile apart, all wrapped similarly, all decomposed. They became known as the Gilgo 4. But the story didn't stop there. As police widened their search, more remains appeared. Human bones, dismembered torsos, skull fragments were all scattered across a 15-mile stretch of highway. Some victims were never even identified. Some were just pieces. In total, at least 11 sets of remains were recovered, and possibly more, some dating back nearly 20 years. At first, it seemed the media and law enforcement would treat this like another string of unfortunate disappearances, cautionary tales for vulnerable women. But online, something very different began to take shape. A group of strangers came together in a small subreddit called r/lisk. While media attention drifted and law enforcement hit walls, the subreddit pressed forward. They built theory after theory. Some believed the killer was a police officer, citing the proximity to law enforcement buildings and radioactivity in the area. Some pointed to a man in Massapequa Park, an architect with odd habits, a stash of burner phones, and disturbing online behavior. In July 2023, nearly 13 years after the first remains were found, a major break. Rex Heuermann was arrested for the murders of 3 of the Gilgo 4. An architect, married, father of 2, living just minutes from the victim dump sites. In his basement, hundreds of weapons, a hidden room, Internet searches like torture porn, how to restrain petite women, and victims kept in soundproof basements. The subreddit exploded. Users dug into his digital footprint and posted screenshots from 2017 threads where he had already been named as a possible suspect by several members years before police ever acknowledged him. Hoffman was only charged in 3 murders. One of the original Gilgo 4 is still unaccounted for in this case, the other 7 also unexplained. And then there's Shannon Gilbert, the woman whose disappearance sparked the entire investigation, still considered by the police to be unrelated. Her family and many online people believe otherwise. Some theorize there was more than one killer. Others believe corruption or cover-ups have buried parts of the truth. This wasn't a solved case handed to the internet. This was a case the internet wouldn't let go cold. In a world where predators exploit shadows, the LISK community became a lighthouse, and their message is chillingly clear. You can hide a body, you can bury the truth, but you can't outrun the internet. On the morning of November 10th, 1979, a farmer in Caledonia, New York discovered the body of a teenage girl lying face down in a cornfield. She had been shot in the head and the back. No ID, no purse, no name, just a torn pair of jeans, a colorful autumn jacket, and a pack of matches from a hotel in Virginia. She was young, likely between 13 and 16 years old, but nobody came forward. No one recognized her. Her face was unfamiliar, and she wasn't listed among any of the local missing girls. For decades, she was known only as Caledonia Jane Doe. Police created composites, artists sketched her face, dental records were preserved, and her clothes were carefully cataloged. But there was no digital trail to follow. This was 1979, before DNA databases, before social media, before anything searchable, and so the case went cold. Years later, in the early 2000s, her case was uploaded to an obscure website called the Doe Network, a volunteer-run archive dedicated to identifying the unidentified. It was joined by thousands of others: Jane Does, John Does, infants, elderly. Decades-old remains that had no name, no voice, except for a line in a police report and a photo in a dusty file. The Doe Network became a kind of graveyard of the forgotten. But it also became a library for the obsessed. Amateur sleuths, retired cops, teachers, college students, all of them scrolling through endless pages of facial reconstructions, trying to match the faces of the missing. Then, in 2009, something changed. The US Department of Justice launched NAM-US, the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. It was a searchable public database that allowed users to filter by age, height, clothing, dental features, and time period in region. By 2010, the Caledonia Jane Doe page was updated with modern reconstructions, a lifelike digital rendering based on her skull. And in 2014, a teenage girl named Danielle came across the image on the Doe Network. She couldn't stop looking at it. The photo reminded her of stories her mom had told her about a childhood friend who'd vanished in the late 70s from Florida. Her name was Tammy Jo Alexander. Tammy had disappeared when she was just 16 years old. She had been hitchhiking, leaving behind a troubled home life and letters she never mailed. Danielle posted her theory in a missing persons forum. Then she reached out to a woman named Barbara Ray Venter, a volunteer investigator who worked on genealogy cases. You might recognize her as the one who later helped catch the Golden State Killer. Barbara contacted NAM-US. They reopened the Caledonia case. They compared dental records and missing persons reports. And in January 2015, 35 years after her death, the FBI confirmed through DNA that Caledonia Jane Doe was Tammy Jo Alexander. For decades, Tammy's grave had read simply, "Unknown Girl, 1979. Now, it could finally say her name. Her family was contacted. Her friends, now adults, wept. The town that buried her without knowing who she was held a vigil in her honor. And the teenager who found her online, she was invited to the ceremony. This wasn't the work of trained detectives. This wasn't the result of a multi-million-dollar task force. This was the internet working slowly, patiently, across decades. Tammy's case reminds us of something most true crime stories don't. Sometimes justice isn't just about catching a killer. Sometimes it's about remembering the forgotten, giving a name to the nameless, and reminding the world that even if no one was listening in 1979, someone was still searching in 2015. In an age where the internet is often blamed for misinformation and obsession, sometimes it's the very thing that restores identity. On November 10th, 2010, 13-year-old Sarah Maynard didn't show up to school. Neither did her 11-year-old brother Cody or their mother Tina Herman. They were last seen at a Walmart in Mount Vernon, Ohio, a quiet town surrounded by woods and farmland, not the kind of place where entire families vanish. At first, it was assumed that they were just late or had just left town briefly, but by nightfall, friends and coworkers were worried. Sarah had been chatting with friends online the night before, nothing out of the ordinary, but after she stopped responding, one of her online friends grew anxious. She called the local police. It would be one of the first clues in a chain of events that would uncover something truly disturbing. When police entered the family's home, they found something straight out of a nightmare. Blood everywhere. Spattered walls, drag marks, cleanup attempts, but no bodies. It was clear. Something had happened here. Something violent. Then, an unusual lead surfaced. A neighbor reported seeing a man parked outside the home, waiting hours before the family disappeared. He had been seen days earlier too, walking the woods behind the house, acting strange. A license plate was captured. It led to a 30-year-old tree trimmer named Matthew Hoffman. When police searched his home, they didn't find the bodies, but they did find something else. The home was filled, literally filled, with leaves, thousands of them, piled waist-high in the living room, in the bathroom, and in the kitchen. Like someone had tried to bring the forest indoors. And then, in the basement wrapped in garbage bags, they found Sarah, alive, duct-taped, injured, terrified. She had been held captive in that house for 4 days. She told police what they feared most. Her mother, her brother, and her mother's friend Stephanie Sprang had all been murdered. Their bodies were later found stuffed inside a hollow tree, dismembered, and wrapped in trash bags. Hoffman had reportedly been planning to keep Sarah as a kind of forest bride. He fed her burgers, dressed her in clean clothes, and told her that she was going to stay. Matthew Hoffman showed no remorse. He confessed quickly, almost casually. His obsession? Trees, leaves, forest, and silence. He told investigators that he found peace in the woods and thought of his home as a treehouse. Sarah was rescued, she survived, but her entire family was gone. And the only reason she was found? A few online messages, and the friend who noticed her silence. The internet can be a strange place. You've got forums that fall into rabbit holes, threads that spiral into obsession, and sometimes, just sometimes, those rabbit holes lead to real answers. This video isn't just about 4 disturbing cases. It's about how regular people, behind screens, behind usernames, uncovered what entire investigations missed. And since this is my first video, let me know how I did in the comments, and if you guys want longer content, let me know about that as well. Thanks for watching.